All right, so
Hi, David.
Let me just say that if any of these guests who did video are performing, Ryan or Michael or anyone like that, if they say anything bad, it's absolutely not true. It is fake news.
You mean it's true.
Hi, everybody. Everybody, thank you so much for being here. We're going to go ahead and start the program. I would like to introduce our MC for the VIP reception. Go ahead, Ryan. Thank you.
Hi, everyone. Hello. Can you see me? I'm
Yeah.
Ryan Spahn. Hello. How's it going? Welcome, everyone. Thank you so much to the Victory Fund for inviting me and for honoring this incredible man, David Mixner, whom we all love. I was trying to think of when I first met David, and it was probably about going on 10 or 11 years ago when my partner and I went and saw him do one of his incredible one-person shows. And I was so blown away by his stage presence, his writing, his humor, and his legacy of work, which is it's unbelievable what he has accomplished in his lifetime. And while I was watching the show, I kept thinking to myself that if it had not been for David and people like David, my partner and I would not be able to attend a show with that kind of freedom to hold each other's hand, to kiss each other when something moved us to kiss each other, to just be intimate with each other in a public space. And so thank you, David, for paving that way for me and my partner to be able to do things like that, because it's something that I had taken for granted, and I still to this day take it for granted, because I didn't experience the kind of things that the generations above me experienced, and you made my life easier. So I really appreciate that. And when I was thinking specifically about something that touched me when watching you, I kept being blown away with how much you talk. You talk and talk and talk and talk. You are a huge talker. You don't let anyone interrupt you. You don't stop. You never say no. And because of that, you changed the world. You didn't let anyone ever tell you no. You didn't let anyone ever stop you. And because of that, you made my life and many other people's lives that much more incredible. So it is an honor to be here to support you.
Thank you, Ryan.
Thank you to the Victory Fund, and congratulations on this wonderful award and this wonderful event. And that's it, y'all. Thank you.
You have to introduce someone, I think.
and now we'd love to turn it over to Lynn Greer, Victory Institute board member and founding co-chair with David.
That's true. I was almost 30 years ago, David. It doesn't seem possible that many of the board members that are on this call tonight honoring you, and current board members, as well as, there might be one or two out there that might be a future board member of this totally amazing organization. It is been an incredible journey, your life, and for me to be able to follow with you in your footsteps, to learn from you, to work with you as we grew this organization. I know William is on this call, Vic Basil. There are so many integral people that made this possible, but all of it, including my journey, would not have been possible without you, David. It just is an amazing thing. And one of the great joys of my working on this event has been able to reconnect with former board members and to hear their stories and to chat with them and to talk to them about what victory meant to them. And I'm going to read this because this is from Cindy Abel. She was on just a minute ago, a former board member from Atlanta. And she wrote to you, David, but I'm going to share it with everybody because I think it resonated with me, and I think it resonates with everybody. It says, on the days when I feel so tired and wonder why we aren't further along as humans, I hear the song from your latest play. I'll rise up in spite of the ache. I'll rise up. All we need is hope. I'll rise up 1,000 times for you. I know, she goes on to say, I know that's what you have done throughout your life for us. so that we can have the freedom, equality, and love. I try to do that every day in my own life, knowing that my obstacles haven't been as difficult because you took them on first for the rest of us, giving your life to service for our beloved community. And to me, that just sums up the essence of who you are and what you've done for all of us. People who have never met you and don't know much about you, you have touched their lives. And for that, we are going to honor you tonight with the Victory Fund's Lifetime Achievement Award. So proud to call you my friend. Congratulations.
Thank you, Lynn, so much. Thank you, Sydney.
And next up, we have a special video from Jason Kander, former Missouri State Secretary of State.
When you're a politician, you make a lot of friends. And the thing is, you make a lot of friends, like in air quotes, you know, they are people who you call for money or for support or for help. And, you know, they call you because they care about advancing the same causes as you. And together you become friends. But there's like political friends, and then there's the much rarer thing, which are the people you meet through politics that become genuine friends. I'm not running for office. I don't know if I'll ever run for office again, but I know that David Mixner is part of a small group of people who I became friends with while I was running for things, while I was in politics, who I can't imagine not being friends with. He is a genuine friend made through politics, and he's more than a friend. He is in many ways for me, as he is for so many people, a mentor. It is incredible how many successful people in politics have been mentored by David Mixner. One of the biggest regrets I have is that it wasn't until we had been friends for a couple of years until I finally picked up his book and read it. And I have that regret because I think I would have even gotten more out of the first couple of years of our friendship if I had done, you know, if I had read that book and had that context. Because maybe for the first 6 months of being David's friend, I was just like, this guy is crazy, but he knows everybody. And then I realized, oh my God, this guy has enormously immense wisdom to offer, and I started to take advantage of it. And I think if maybe I had just started by reading his book in the first place, I would have really understood what kind of a friend I had made. But then again, I don't think I would have had the opportunity to really enjoy David the way I did, because I probably would have been starstruck because of all the amazing things that he has done in his life. You know, David likes to, I think, somewhat jokingly refer to himself as a living legend. I think it's only somewhat, I mean, David's pretty serious about it, right? But he truly is a living legend. And he is, when I try to describe him to friends, I say that he is the MLK of the LGBT movement. And I really feel that way 100%. And so to me, it's not just that I know David or that we get to live in this stretch of time and enjoy, you know, being around David and his leadership over these decades. It's not just that we got to cross paths with David. It's the enormous privilege of being his friend and being somebody who, you know, as you all know, when you're David's friend, he'll walk over hot coals for you. I mean, he'll do anything. I've made tremendous friends because David introduced me to them. And I've learned incredibly important things sitting at his table at the Glass House Tavern when it's just me and him. And he looks you right in the eye and he says, you listen to this, you little bastard, you know, and then you learn something. So David, I love you. And I am just so grateful to be your friend. Thanks, man.
Wow. Someone asked me today if I was excited about tonight, and I said, God, yes. Who, after 6 decades of work, gets to have the humble honor of living to see the people who you love and care for the most, who has been your buddies in a great epic struggle for freedom and equality, say a job well done. And I thank you all for helping get this off the ground tonight. The Victory Fund, as Lynn will know, has been a passion of ours from day one and 30 years ago almost. You know, I remember when our first candidate was an African-American woman named Sherry Harris for Seattle City Council. And she pulled an upset, mostly because of the resources we were able to get to her through the Victory Fund. And today there's over 800 LGBTQ gay and elected officials, Congress people, and goddamn, Pete Buttigieg carried Iowa. What more do we need? So thank you from the bottom of my heart. Thank you for your support of the Victory Fund. It's one of my favorite organizations. And just, I don't know what to say. It's just thank you.
Now I'd like to introduce Ross LaJeunesse.
Hey, hi everyone. My husband Patrick and I feel so lucky to be with all of you as we celebrate my friend and my mentor, David. I first met David in 1993. I was right out of college and working as an aide to George Mitchell. I had come out, but to be honest, at that time and at that age, I still saw my identity as a burden, as something that would hold me back. David was already a towering figure in the civil rights movement. I mean, he and Lynn had already co-founded this organization. Bill Clinton had just become president. And when I visited David's office in LA, he had a plaque on his wall. And they were words that Clinton had said to our community the year before. And he was talking about America. And he said, I have a vision and you are a part of it. Now that seems pretty simple and undramatic today. But at the time, that was revolutionary. To be included, to be wanted, to be valued, and to be seen as part of the fabric of America. I mean, just 4 years earlier, Dukakis had refused support from the gay community. And when that changed, it had everything to do with David. Now, when David met me, he said the same things that he still says to me today. I won't share all of them, but the key ones are, I believe in you, Ross. You have a life in public service, and don't let anyone tell you otherwise. And I listened to David. I went on to work for Ted Kennedy on an early version of ENDA. I worked on gay rights, both in corporate America and in government. And last year, my husband and I decided that I was going to run for US Senate from my home state of Maine as an openly gay man. And I say this not because I've had a huge impact, but I've always done what I could. And that is all because of the early mentoring and support of David. Now I'm going to tell you one last quick story because I think it really shows, that's my puppy, by the way, so hopefully he'll behave. He's agreeing. It shows us the type of person that David is and why he's had such an impact on so many of us. As I was making a decision whether we should run, I went to visit David in New York. Against his doctor's orders, we had lunch at the Glass House Tavern, and for 3 hours we talked. Not so much about political strategy, but about whether this was something Patrick and I were ready to do. And when I told David we were going to run, he gave me some advice that it'll stay with me forever. And he said this, he said, Ross, at some point you are going to be running late. You are going to be rushing to an event and the sun is going to be going down and it is going to be beautiful. And he said, make them stop that car, pull over and watch that sunset. And you'll be late when you arrive at your event and you'll have to apologize, but when you arrive, you will be calm and at peace and you'll be able to do what you need to do, which is describe a vision for those voters, a vision of what you want to do to help and why you're running in the first place. So he said, Spend time with Patrick. Play with your nieces. Take time to watch the sunset. Don't become a machine because people don't want to vote for a machine. I've already shared that with so many people, David, in my life, with so many politicians and would-be politicians. And I say that because for all the big public wins that you've achieved for our movement, what I think is most impactful is really the many, many people like myself and my husband and Jesse, the many, many people you've taken time to support, to advise, to mentor, to encourage, and to promote. So with that, I just want to say thank you so much from all of us.
Thank you. And next up, a musical video performance by Stephen Barry.
To the fella who's offered so much to so many, the sparkly-eyed man who gave you his very last penny, the cowboy with the mouth of a sailor, the strut of a king, the sass of a queen, all balled into one and wrapped up in fun. Wherever you go, laughter will flow, and the seeds of hope are sown and grown. You fill the world with a little more song, and we celebrate your lifelong fight against wrong. Oish gabos, voskish, gamermi bior and aumsha arish. By a lonely prison wall, I heard a young girl calling. Michael, they have taken you away, for you stole Trevelyan's corn, so the young might see the moon. Now the prison ship lies waiting in the bay. Low lie the fields of Athenry, where once we watched the small free birds fly. Our love was on the wing, we had dreams and songs to sing. It's so lonely round the fields of Athenry. By a lonely prison wall, I heard a young man calling. Nothing matters, Mary, when you're free. Against the famine and the crown, I rebelled, they brought me down. Now you must raise our child with dignity. Lie the fields of Athenry, where once we watched the small free birds fly. Our love was on the wing, we had dreams and songs to sing. It's so lonely around the fields of Athenry. By a lonely harbor wall, she watched the last star falling. As the prison ship sailed out against the sky, sure she'll live in hope and pray for her love in Botany Bay. It's so lonely around the fields of Athenry. Long lie the fields of Athenry, It's so lonely around the fields of Athenry. Long lie the fields of Athenry, where once we watched the small free birds fly. Our love was on the wing, we had dreams and songs to sing. It's so lonely around the fields of Athenry.
Oh, damn you, Stephen, you made me cry. I hate you. Thank you, darling.
And now I'd like to introduce Mayor Annise Parker, President and CEO of LGBTQ Victory Fund.
So my job is primarily to thank the folks who were part of this VIP reception. I know you would much rather have been together in person, but to be able to be together tonight is really special. And wow, that song was fantastic. I want to thank Stephen Barry and company for that beautiful song. I also want to thank those who offered tributes to David. I know he'll thank you individually and personally, and I know he's also trying to get his composure back a little bit after that song. But the other thing I have to do right now is to thank those who contributed to the event tonight to make it a financial success for Victory. Yes, next year it'll be 30 years. We've grown a lot, but so has our work. There are more than 900 people out there running across America who represent the LGBTQ community, and we have and are supporting more than 300 of those this year. And tonight's event is a big part of how we offer that support. But I want to quickly run through some of those who have supported it tonight. Our director level sponsor, Tonio Burgos, chair level sponsors, Ryan Offit, Danny Seabright, Warner Music Group, Constantine Matides and Bernard Whitman, host level sponsors, Peter Frank and Michael Bailey, Jerry Cade, Sally Sussman and Robin Carter, Seth Rosen and Jacob Gortz, Christine Hershey, Sharon and Taryn Callahan Miller, Andrew Tobias, Scott Widmeyer and Alan Yount, T-Mobile, Victory Institute partners, director level Ken Mehlman and Joy Thompson, chair level partners Google, host level partner Broadway Cares, Equity Fights AIDS, the David Bennett Foundation, Paul Boskin, Lynn Greer, Paul Horning, Ross LaJeunesse, and Patrick Othout. Want to thank all of you for being a part of this. Again, thanks to Ryan Spahn for kicking us off. And David, this is a Lifetime Achievement Award, but I want to be really clear. There's still a lot of work for you to do. We're not letting you off the hook. This is a thank you and a look back, but also just glad that you're still here, you're still kicking, and you're still ready to kick ass. We are going to transition now to the broader room and give us just a moment and enjoy the conversation. But thank you.
Thank you, Mayor. Stephen Barry, I have to say, I think that was the best rendition of Fields of Athenry I'd ever heard. You know, that's my favorite song in the world. And to have the Irish presence in the house from Dublin and London tonight is just extraordinary.
It didn't resonate deeply with me. I disagree because I really got what Rob was trying to communicate to us on that.
As you're joining, if you could just mute your screens, we would greatly appreciate it. Thank you.
A really good apple and a really.
So David, this is Annise again. I found out something the other night when you were on the phone with me, and that is that I know you're a whole lot older, but you've actually been out less time than I have. I've been out longer than you. So I'm going to celebrate that tonight too.
You're on mute, David.
Hi, thank you, Neil. I was just saying, Mayor Parker is one of my heroines. She ran for mayor of Houston and won many and reelected many times. I never thought I'd live long enough to see a lesbian mayor of Houston, Texas. It was such an inspiration to us all, and I think inspired a lot of the people who are now currently mayors all over the country, in Tampa and Chicago and all those places. You were a true pioneer and you inspired us all, Mayor.
Thank you. Appreciate that.
And Neil Giuliano was mayor of Tempe, Arizona as a Republican. And I wrote a check to him and my friend said he's a Republican. And I said, he is a Republican. And that's why I'm writing a check for him. It takes a lot of guts. And he got elected. And how many years did you serve, Neil?
10 years.
10 years.
And I'm no longer a Republican, for the record. It's been a long time.
They wouldn't let me serve that long.
Were you term limited?
Yes, I was. Term limited out of 3 positions. I am banned for life now in Houston. I can't.
Are they flipping us into the other room? Is that what's happening?
I think they're letting other people in.
We're letting other people in right now, yes.
Okay.
So tell some more stories.
Oh, God. I remember one time.
Big Daddy stories.
Yeah, well, hey, Paul, how are you? I remember one time in the when there was International Women's Year in the 1970s, and it was in Houston and in Los Angeles, and we were trying to build a bridge between gay men and lesbian because there was quite a divide back then, rightfully so, because gay men had a history of misogyny and not recognizing the gifts of our sisters. And the lesbian community was supporting a slate against the Phyllis Schlafly slate in California to get delegates to go to the National Convention of International Women's Year. So Peter Scott and a group of us hired buses and loaded them with gay men and pulled up at the, got out, paid our $20 registration fee, filled out the forms, and delivered almost 200 votes to the lesbian slate, and they won. And that was a key ingredient in building the bridge between the gay men and lesbian community. It was also funny as hell to see all those Phyllis Schlafly women horrified at these gay men lining up at the table to vote against her. It was one of the more rewarding things in my life. And that was a time when Peter went to the international one, and he was in the room with Diane Abbott and Roberta Bennett, and they were having a meeting, and suddenly people started writing for the meeting, and they said, Peter, you can't be here. This is for lesbians only. So they pushed him under the bed, and he stayed under the bed through the whole meeting so they wouldn't get in trouble. You know, we were creative and innovative back then.
All right. And we are going to start the program. A lot of people have joined us. Folks are still joining us, but we're going to get going.
Hi everybody. Welcome to Victory Fund's tribute to David Mixner. I'm your MC for the night. My name is Michael Urie. I'm an actor, and apparently I haven't combed my hair in 6 months. It's going to be a really special night. I think you're going to see some really exciting people. You're going to hear some really nice stories. You're going to hear a lot of mentions of the Glass House Tavern. And we're going to all celebrate our good friend and hero, David Mixner. I am zooming in from Rhode Island right now in a very pretty house where I'm quarantined with several other actors to begin shooting a small movie. We start rehearsal tomorrow. I've been tested for COVID 3 times in the last 6 days. So that's a lot of swabbing and a lot of penetration. Please forgive me if my Wi-Fi goes out. It's kind of spotty in this house. I think it might be owned by Republicans. So speaking of tech, here's a little technical spec for you. We have spotlighted the dominant speaker, which should be me right now. But if you found yourself in gallery view, click speaker view in the top right corner of your screen. That'll give you the best experience. I should be the dominant speaker right now, which means our guest of honor is the submissive one, probably already getting anxious. I'm honored to be here. I'm really, really, really honored to be here celebrating legendary David Benjamin Mixner. He has been an activist for 60 years, and countless activists and elected officials cite David as a key. 29 years ago, he helped found the organization honoring him today, the LGBTQ Victory Fund, becoming one of its first board co-chairs and helping elect hundreds of openly gay LGBTQ candidates throughout his tenure. I'm delighted to have been chosen by David and the Victory, and I like to think of myself as an activist, but certainly not on par with David. But I promise I'm qualified because, like David and the Victory Fund, I'm super queer. And like David, I'm a theater rat. David loves theater so much, he lives in Times Square. He loves the theater so much, he's even written and performed in his own solo shows, which I have seen. He is a born storyteller. He does so to advance equality for our community. Activist form of theater is activism. Frankly, David's form of activism is theatrical. This event could easily be 3 hours. I promise it won't be, but a lot of people were eager to speak. Actors, writers, politicians, and of course, there's musicians who call David a close friend. So I'm excited to introduce you to one of those musicians to get us started, the great Dave Koz, whose new album, his 20th, is coming out October 9th. It's called A New Day, and let's hope it's a premonition. Conceived and recorded completely under the umbrella of COVID-19 for the purpose of giving a musical hug to all of us so affected by the pandemic. Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome 9-time Grammy nominee with a star on the Hollywood Walk of Fame, the great and talented Dave Koz.
Okay, I think I am unmuted. Hopefully you can hear me.
Yes.
First of all, thank you, Michael, very much for that lovely introduction. And I just want to say that we've all been frozen on Zoom at one point in our life. And usually it's the face that you get frozen on is like, oh, these things. Your frozen face was perfect. So you did well. First of all, I just want to say how delighted I am and honored I am to be here to celebrate Big Daddy. I love, like everybody else on this Zoom call, I love David Mixner. David Mixner has changed my life and changed my life for the better in so many ways I can't even begin to tell you. So David, thank you very much for being here. Thank you to the Victory Fund for inviting me to be a part of such a special evening. And let me take you back to 2004. I was 40 years old at the time. And I was a nervous wreck because I had finally made the decision to come out publicly. I'd come out privately in my personal life, but publicly, that was a big step. And I sort of had made peace in my own mind that whatever happened, like could very well be the end of my career. Whatever happened, I was okay. So I took that step. I came out in a story in The Advocate in early 2004. And I was sitting on the edge of my seat wondering what was going to happen. The first email after the article hit the newsstands was from David Mixner. And he basically reached out his hand to me, this very nervous young man, not so young, but I was wading into water that I had never been in before, and I was a nervous wreck. And David not only he caught me, but he let me know in no uncertain terms that everything was going to be okay. And I can't begin to tell you how much that meant to me. Just that alone, just the email would be fine. But the next email, which came 2 days later, David, you remember this, it was like, first of all, the email, when he sent it to me, he said, I've been a fan of yours for a long time. One of your albums, old album called Lucky Man, I listened to it, got me through a tough time. I had no idea you were gay, but now that I know you're gay, I'm going to listen to everything again. And so 2 days later, he sends me the next email, which was an invitation to be the musical of Ted Kennedy's house in Washington, D.C. It was a meeting of the Democratic senatorship. And he said, if you want to bring a couple musicians, we'll have a little show for the Democratic senators in Ted Kennedy's house, Senator Kennedy's house. I said, are you smoking something? Of course I'll be there. So that happened. We played a little show in the backyard. Everybody left. It was a 2-hour event. And after the 2 hours, everybody was gone except for me and David and the late senator and his wife, Victoria. And the 4 of us sat in the Kennedy living room drinking gin and tonics for about 2 hours. And I had Ted Kennedy call my mom of course, my mom didn't believe that it was actually Ted Kennedy on the phone. But that kind of experience, and I'm sure everybody on this call could have an experience that was similar to that because of David Mixner. And I learned so much from David through the many years of friendship that we've had. And that was the beginning of a friendship that's had many such moments, so many wonderful, life-changing moments with this man. And I know that I'm not the only one. I'm just one of many, many people whose lives have been so affected in such a positive way by the hero of David Mixner. And as somebody else said before the event started, he's as close as we have in the LGBTQ community to a Martin Luther King. And God bless you, David. I'm going to play a song for David and all of you. This is a song that I know is very special to David because, it's a special song to me too. It was my mom's favorite song. And I think the reason why it's been around for so long, over 70 years now, is it's a song about hope. And it's something that we need a lot of right now, especially with the way that our world is and the way that this country is. And David, David is the walking epitome of hope. So I would like to dedicate this to you, Big Daddy. You know that I love you from my heart to your heart forever and always. And to all the people here who are supporting the Victory Fund and the amazing work that they are doing in the world of politics and in our world in general. So this is for all of you. It's a song that needs no introduction, and somehow I've managed to give it a 5-minute introduction. So I'll shut up and play the song for you right now. Here you go. I love you, David.
Thank you. That was spectacular. I'm Annise Parker. I'm the current president and CEO of the LGBTQ Victory Fund and Victory Institute. And I want to thank everybody who's here tonight. You know, almost 30 years ago, Victory endorsed its first candidate. Sherry Harris was a Black lesbian running for city council in Seattle. No one gave her a chance. But Victory endorsed her, Victory got behind her, Victory solicited checks from across the country. You know, it's all electronic now, no one sends checks anymore, but I know Sherry received bundles of checks because I received those same bundles of checks in my own campaign. And those contributions, that support made the difference. And she became Victory's first successful endorsed candidate. Thousands of candidates later, hundreds and hundreds of elected officials holding office, Victory has changed the political landscape in America. David was there at the beginning. David helped spark what we are. He didn't do it alone, and a lot of the original guiding lights within Victory are on this call tonight, and we appreciate their presence. But the world is so different now than it was when Victory first started. There are actually almost 900 openly LGBT candidates currently serving. There are more than 900 out LGBT candidates running. And from that one first candidate this year, Victory has more than 300 endorsed candidates that we've supported across the country. You can see the work that's going on, and all because some amazing folks centered around David Mixner had the courage to make it happen. Now, that legacy is why we are honoring David Mixner with his Lifetime Achievement Award. I've already told him very clearly that a Lifetime Achievement Award doesn't mean you can quit. It's just marking a milestone or marking the work that's been done, but there's still a lot of work to do. I'm going to take a few moments to thank the folks who made this possible, because tonight is a fundraiser for Victory, and we really appreciate David lending himself to us for tonight and for so many years and allowing us to build this around him. But there's some amazingly generous friends of David Mixner out there that I want to mention. Victory Fund sponsors, Director Tonio Burgos, chairs Ryan Offit, Danny Seabright, Warner Music Group, I should have this larger, Konstantin Batides and Bernard Whitman, hosts Peter Frank and Michael Bailey, Jerry Cade, Sally Sussman and Robin Cantor, Seth Rosen and Jacob Gortz, Christine Hershey, Sharon and Taryn Callahan Miller, Andrew Tobias, Scott Widmeyer, and Alan Yount, T-Mobile. Victory Institute, Director Partners, Ken Mehlman, Joy Thompson, chairs Google, host, Broadway Cares, Equity Fights AIDS, David Bennett Foundation, Paul Boskin, Lynn Greer, Paul Horning, Ross LaJeunesse, and Patrick Othout. I want to thank Michael Urie for hosting, and to Dave Cause, who performed, and Will Reynolds, who will also perform. Thank you to everyone who supported tonight. And I do think it's important to take just a moment to call out another longtime philanthropist and advocate and a friend of David's, Henry Van Ameringen, who passed away last week. He was a generous supporter of Victory Fund's work, but he devoted his life to supporting LGBTQ, HIV/AIDS, and mental health causes, marijuana reform, criminal justice reform issues. So his contributions are remembered tonight as well. We are proud of the work that David started. Got a lot more work to do. And Victory has a lot of future ahead of us, and it looks really bright. Thanks to David and company, but thanks to all of you who are with us tonight. Now I'm thrilled to introduce a video from one of David's closest friends, and I don't know whether it's appropriate to say partner in crime, but considering some of the stories he's told, maybe not so far off, but the incredible actress, producer, and advocate, Judith Light.
I wanted my life to be a demonstration of the way I wanted the world to be. Passionate, committed, being of service, and making my life about something other than myself. I am quoting my friend and soul brother, David Mixner. You at the Victory Fund are honoring him with the Lifetime Achievement Award. How perfect. He is an extraordinary human being as well as one of the original founders of the Victory Fund, and so much more. 60 years of activism. That is certainly something to be honored. He has spent those years and that history advising leaders and making change himself. Always on the front lines, sometimes fearful, but moving ahead anyway in spite of the fear. That is the definition of true courage. I told David that I wanted to speak about some of his history and some of his achievements, not because of the achievements themselves, but because they demonstrate the life of a human being dedicated to transformation and a person never willing to give up. Even to this day, when David is not as well as he might wish, he is still a voice for change, supporting the LGBTQIA+ community and making sure that the youth to whom he leaves this legacy are appropriately aware of the work that has been done and the work that is yet to do. He is not only an advocate, an activist, an advisor, a teacher, he is also the author of 4 books and 2 screenplays and has brought his storytelling to the stage in his one-man shows, a writer extraordinaire. His blog has reached over 500,000 people. Quite frankly, I know no one like David Mixner. In the early days of 1959, he supported JFK, the first Catholic to run for president. And when David talks about that time, he speaks of JFK and his passion for civil rights, about organizations like VISTA and the Peace Corps. He speaks of Kennedy in terms of a remarkable voice for change. Well, if you want my opinion, David was just looking in a mirror. The Pro-Peace March in 1986 was organized by David. It encompassed thousands of people. However, David allowed, as how it ended all too soon for varying reasons, and never one to feel demoralized. He takes note that he was involved for what he believes were the right reasons, and that he learned many lessons from the experience. His has been a lifelong dedication to peace, peace individually, nationally, and globally. In 1969, the Vietnam moratorium was the largest march in the history of the United States up to that point. 2 million people gathered nationwide to oppose the war. David was one of its main organizers. He likes to say there were no fax machines, no internet, no social media, and yet they were able to do so much. And he marvels that change today can happen so quickly. He honors and respects everyone for their dedication to their various causes and their struggles, for he knows what struggle is. He struggled with coming out, and in 1976 he realized that he had been fighting for the rights of so many other people, the environment, farmers' rights, civil rights for Black Americans, among others, and he said the time had come when I had to fight for myself. He said he couldn't keep reconciling being beaten and jailed for others, much as he was devoted to those individuals and their causes. He said, I needed to find my own dignity and my own courage, and so he came out, and still he fought for others. Coming out and experiencing that freedom allowed him to support his own community at the same time as he was advocating for others who were consistently marginalized. And I speak of these things not only because of the outcomes, as I said, but also because it is a demonstration of a life well lived, a life which Eleanor Roosevelt defined perfectly when she said, you must do the thing you think you cannot do. That is the essence of David Mixner. In 1978 California election, there was a referendum put on the ballot. It was called the Briggs Initiative, otherwise known as California Proposition 6. This failed initiative sought to ban gays and lesbians from working in California public schools, and it failed in large part due to David's getting Ronald Reagan to speak out against this unjust law. And when there was talk of quarantining people with HIV in the early days of the pandemic, he was on the front lines. He was a member of the McGovern Commission from 1970 to 1972 that reformed the Democratic Party delegates' platform. David wrote the plank, and it passed. and that gave more support to delegates that were women and minorities. He was part of the anti-nuclear movement in the 1980s. He's a great lover of Africa and a valued protector of wildlife. At the Democratic Convention in 1968 in Chicago, he was beaten and jailed and bears the scars to this day. He was the person who introduced Bill Clinton to the gay community at a special event in 1992, and it was that moment and that money that helped Clinton with his campaign. And after Clinton became president, and there were the policies of DOMA, the Defense of Marriage Act, and Don't Ask, Don't Tell, which David vehemently opposed, he chained himself to the fence outside the White House in protest. This was one of the 15 times he was arrested, losing his access to the White House and also many of his clients who would no longer work with him. To say that this is a man who lives his principles gives him short shrift. He always believed when speaking of politics that it was very important to be the best outsider on the inside. So he has fought for and supported the Victory Fund candidates so that they could elect their own, and that the rights for LGBTQIA+ people would not be negotiated away. There is so much more to be said, spoken of, and acknowledged. However, I think David sums it up best when he says, "I am a man searching for knowledge, whose whole life has brought people together. I have worked not to judge anyone or make them feel late to the game. What's really me are the people in my life." And I would also add that he is one that has not only made his mark on the world, but also transformed the world in most profound ways. It is the world and we who are graced by his courage, his activism, and his passion. We are who we are because of David Mixner, and so is the world. I congratulate you, David, on this honor, and I congratulate the Victory Fund for honoring this remarkable human being. Acknowledging David in this way reminds us of all he has done and how he has graced our lives, and how we will never be the same.
Wow, that was very beautiful. Thank you so much, Judith. Keep an eye out for that one. She might just make it. Now we will hear from 3 elected officials who call David a friend, or at the very least, a frenemy. Former New York City Council Speaker and should-be Mayor Christine Quinn, New York City Council member and soon-to-be member of Congress from New York's 15th Congressional District, Ritichie Torres, and the former mayor of Tempe, Arizona, and LGBTQ Victory Institute board member, Neil Giuliano. Take it away, Speaker Quinn.
Thank you very much. I just had to unmute. Michael, thank you for that sweet extra introduction. I certainly appreciate it. So in thinking and prepping for tonight, I kept thinking, when did I meet David Mixner? Like, when did I really meet him? And I don't know. I remember back when I first started working for Tom Duane and in and around the gay community when Tom hired me as his straight campaign manager. In the early 90s, David Mixner was infamous. He was the person you wanted to be. He was the bravery you wanted to have in your soul. He was the person who was making everything better and moving the agenda forward. And then there was that meeting that Judith Light referenced at Marty Rouse's house down in Tribeca. Marty, for someone of his age, had this bizarrely huge apartment, which we packed to hear Bill Clinton. And I remember thinking at the time, how is this happening? Like, how is this event with a significant presidential candidate happening, and it's just for the, LGBT, then gay community, LGBTQ community. And I remember David being at the event and people like pointing at him and saying, that's why this is happening. That's the guy who made this happening. That's the guy who made this happen. And I'll never forget it. And at some point, I don't know when, I was lucky enough to come to know David and to become friends with David and to get the support of David, which is everything. because when David supports you, you get emails, you get texts, you get ideas, you get, just messages telling you to buck up or stay strong or that was great. And when you lose an election, you get all of that too. So for me, he is just one of the kindest, most generous, thoughtful, empathetic, encouraging people I've ever met. And he really reminded me so many times that I could do more than I thought I could. And that there was so much more to do for the community and for anti-poverty work, that whether I thought I could or I couldn't, I just needed to do it. And I don't know that I've ever really thanked David for that. And I don't know that I've ever told him, so now I am, how much that fueled me. How much having a man as significant as you, as impactful as you, as generous as you, have faith in me. Well, it really, really sustained me. It fueled me. It got me to do more in good times, to push harder, to never give up, to speak truth to power. And it also sustained me during less upbeat times. So David, I just love you. I would never have succeeded in the way I have without you. My commitment and belief that we can end homelessness in this city in the near future comes from your belief in all of your work and sharing that and instilling it in me. So your work is not done, and I can't wait to quote John Lewis, to get in some good trouble with you very, very soon. And I just want to take a second, because worse than a present politician and a microphone is a ex-politician and a microphone or a stage. But I just want to thank Mayor Parker and all of Victory Fund. You know, there is no way I would have been Speaker of the New York City Council without Victory Fund. There's no way I could have run a credible campaign for mayor without them. There's so many other people who can say that. And let's be clear, it matters to have LGBTQ people in office. If you're not, as been said by Gloria Steinem, if you're not at the table, you're on the menu. And Annise Parker makes sure through her work and the Victory Fund's work that we're not on the menu, but that we are driving our agenda. And obviously the Victory Fund comes, as most good things in our community do, out of the vision of the great David Mixner. So, mwah, love you and thank you from the bottom of my heart.
David, it's good to see you. It's an honor to be with you. You know, when you helped found the Victory Fund, I was probably 2 years old. So to have the long history with you that others have had. But what I do know is that those of us who are young LGBTQ leaders stand on the shoulder of giants. And you are, without question, one of those giants. You are a great orator. You're a legend. You are the greatest leader for the LGBTQ community. And I just want to thank you not only for the generosity that you have shown me unfailingly, but I want to thank you for dedicating 60 years of your life to help creating a world where a candidacy like mine became possible. I'm about to be the first Afro-Latino LGBTQ member of the United States Congress in the South Bronx, and the triumph of my candidacy over the worst homophobe in New York State politics is a testament to your life's work. And so I just simply want to say thank you, and that your legacy is deeply felt here in the South Bronx, as it is felt in many places across our country, in the lives of many people. And I am just one of many who is morally indebted to you. I am honored to know you. And if I had a champagne, I would toast to you. Thank you, David.
Thank you, Richie.
David Mixner. For the 195 other folks who are on this call right now, if you have not had the tremendous honor to know David Mixner personally, read his books, learn about him, listen to him. I think one of the best things I can say about David's work and his role in our movement, and I mean this very sincerely, there are a handful of folks who we can say actually played a role in moving the culture, whose work and whose life activity, whose relationships and engagement moved the culture to make it ready for the laws, to make it ready for the Richies and the Christines and myself as a mayor here in Tempe, Arizona, to be able to serve. You moved the culture, and there are very few people in our movement and in general who can say that. One of the honors of my life was marching down Pennsylvania Avenue with you for that March on Washington, and then being one of a handful of your friends who got to stand on stage while you addressed the crowd. It was awe-inspiring. It was a tremendous moment to be with you at that time. And so I just want to say how special it is. You're right, as you said earlier, I don't know how many were on the call when David said earlier, David Mixner sent me a check when I was running for mayor of Tempe, and I had only heard of David Mixner and remember talking to my staff saying, do you think this is the David Mixner that sent me this check? And through a friend of a friend, we found out it was. And I wrote a thank you note to David because email didn't exist then. And sure enough, we started a correspondence that turned into a lifelong friendship. And while you're only about a decade older than me, Big Daddy, not having a father for most of my life, you're a father figure too. And your wisdom and your guidance has helped me immensely in my life, political and otherwise. So I would just leave you with this one saying: if you would sense the past, you touch a stone. If you would capture the moment, you touch a rose. If you would but glimpse the eternal, you touch a life. You, my friend, have touched lives. You have made a difference in the lives of countless people. Thank you. I love you. And God bless.
Love you, Neil. Love you to pieces.
Well, thanks everybody. Thank you, Speaker Quinn, Councilmember Torres, and Mayor Giuliano. I understand my video has been spotty, so you should be looking at my headshot now, in which my hair is combed. Those three LGBTQ elected officials, like so many other elected officials that David has influenced, have been critical in the Victory Fund's efforts to build LGBTQ political power. Now, we are delighted to share a special tribute video in honor of David.
When I got the idea to start the Victory Fund, we needed someone to give it credibility. I had heard that David had retired to some paradise called Cozy Beach, Connecticut. Now, who's going to want to leave a place called Cozy Beach? Once apprised of the Victory Fund's core mission, David readily agreed to be the founding co-chair. It was an unselfish act to make our world better by helping elect our own to public office. A few years later, I asked David why he agreed to come out of retirement to take on such a role for an unknown, unproven, and untested concept like the Victory Fund. David replied, "You know, William, I never want to be that old man just sitting around telling stories about the past. I want to create new stories for the future." David's message had a profound impact on me. If you aren't creating change, you're accepting the status quo.
David, you've impacted my life in so many ways, as you've impacted everybody else's life. Your gift to mentor and to take our passion and show us how to turn it into action is one of the greatest gifts you give to our community and to the world. And for that, I am eternally grateful.
David Mixner, thank you for teaching me that a spine of steel and a soft heart go hand in hand.
Congratulations, Big Daddy, and greetings from Oklahoma. David, thanks for teaching me the resolve necessary to do the hard work, to not be deterred, to know that the arc bending towards equality takes all of us in long days, the sweat, the toil, all of it. I'm so impressed with you, and you taught me it's about resolve, it's about incremental change over time, patience sometimes, but mostly impatience to get good things done. So thank you for that, David.
It's almost too easy for me to talk about the impact that David Mixner's had on my life, because just about this time of year, maybe 12 years ago, David Mixner called me while I was working at the Bar Association in Philadelphia, and he asked me, he sort of told me, to come to a cabin that he was living at in New York. And I packed all my stuff in my truck and I drove to this little tiny cabin in the middle of nowhere, and for the next couple of days, I sat around a fire with a blanket wrapped around me, listening to stories from one of the great LGBT icons of any era. And at the end, he told me something that I'll never forget. He told me that while it was really important for us to look for and support those leaders that will lead us and that will protect us going forward, it's even more important to become those leaders. He told me that it was time for me to run for office, and although I didn't agree with him at the time would prove that he was right. And because of it, David Mixner was actually the person that swore me into office when I was elected to the Pennsylvania House of Representatives.
Thank you, David Mixner, for being a role model and a mentor. Thank you for giving me my first job as a political activist in 1985 when I worked for the Great Peace March. And though that effort didn't come to fruition as you had hoped, it taught a lot of young people like me political organizing skills that I continue to use to this very day. So thank you, thank you, thank you.
David, thank you for teaching me about loyalty in politics. It has served me well my entire political life.
David has made an extraordinary impact on both of our lives. He is a dear friend, a legendary author, and an incredible activist for so many causes: human rights, LGBTQ+, equality, wildlife conservation.
On and on. He was there at the very beginning of so many of these movements and has shown an unflagging sense of optimism and belief in the potential for social progress. He's an enormous credit to his country and to the great state of New Jersey from which he hails. We love you, David.
Love you, David.
When we started the Victory Fund, David was its founding co-chair. David would call every morning at precisely 9 a.m. It was his way of checking in. We would discuss the latest developments regarding candidates, finances, and the next steps. David was always supportive and encouraging. From him, I learned the value of unconditional support. Every individual deserves a mentor who allows for mistakes, growth, and opportunity. I was so grateful for David's leadership. We were a great team, and we created a strong foundation for the Victory Fund's growth and success.
I can't believe it's been 30 years since I met you in that room when we were first organizing the Victory Fund. And thanks to you, you mentored me, taught me, and brought me along. I will be eternally grateful for your friendship and your everlasting gift to this community.
Now, it's really easy for me to talk about some of the lessons that I've learned from David, but one of the ones that's still the most important to me is to remember that we can take our work seriously, but we don't have to take ourselves seriously. We're a bright, fun, vibrant communities, and we need to make sure that we don't forget our identity as we're doing all this really, really hard work. And so to David, I want to say thank you, David, for teaching me not to take myself too seriously while I take this work really seriously.
David Mixner has had a tremendous impact on the lives of LGBTQ+ people. As an early pioneering gay activist, he paved the way for people to come out of the closet, for people to not be pigeonholed into certain careers, and to show that gay people could organize and claim political power. David Mixner has laid the foundation for people like me, an elected official serving in the United States Congress, to claim a space in public life. We owe David Mixner a tremendous, tremendous debt of gratitude. David, thank you so much.
Will Reynolds is an actor and Fred Ebb award-winning musical theater writer whose work can be heard
I think Michael has finished speaking. Hi. Oh, maybe not.
Mahoney winner Donald's most recent studio album. His New York acting credits include Daddy Long Legs and the revival
Sorry, I still have the remainder of Michael in my ears. Sorry.
And you can also
Am I good to go?
You're good to go.
Okay, so sorry. Hi, sorry, Michael. I know you're having some Wi-Fi. I'm having some camera issues. I had another camera up here, so that's where I might be looking for a second because I had some technical issues. I'm so honored to be here. Big Daddy, David, I love you so much. I'm just going to take a second to just give a little bit of context of who I am and why I'm here, and then I'm going to sing a beautiful song by a friend of ours. I met David in 2014 as a performer in his incredible benefit show, Oh Hell No, at New World Stages. And being a part of that powerful night for the Point Foundation was thank you enough for me, but David wanted to get to know my partner, Chris, and I, and treat us to brunch at David's Corner at the Glass House Tavern. And that became a standing date for the three of us, and our lives have truly never been the same. David has inspired our own activism. He has pushed us in our creative work and supported every single project. He took us to the White House, the Obama White House, let's be excruciatingly clear. And on a cold, rainy day in March of 2017, after just having spent a week in the ICU, and against his doctor's orders, David married us in front of our families in Fort Tryon Park. We owe so much of who we are to David. And the song I'm sharing tonight is by another personal hero turned friend, Broadway composer John Bacchino. And it was written for David's incredible live last show, Sick as Hell, which David performed again against his doctor's orders. There's a theme here, Big Daddy. But that's David. And thank you, David. We will never be able to match you in generosity, in tenacity, in vision, in standards. But you make us all want to get up and try every single day. You are truly a beam of light to us all, and this is your song. This is David's song. Someone made a choice, one good deed at a time, and felt the glow of selfless giving lead him through a life worth living. Someone heard a voice he chose to heed, that told him where there's pain, look to it, seek a way to serve and do it. I can do that too, noticing a need, seeing them as me, and helping where I can. Even something small can turn a wrong thing right. Just step into the dark and shine a beam of light. Someone's garden grew, one good seed at a time, in sun and shade through winter's chilling, technicolor dream fulfilling. Someone's spirit flew, a steady upward climb, to panoramas clearly showing open-hearted kindness flowing. I can do that too, noticing a need, seeing them as me, and helping where I can. Even something small can turn a wrong thing right. Just step into the dark and shine a beam of light. And sometimes it was lonely, and sometimes he grew tired, or sad or uninspired, but he held fast, and those clouds always pass. Someone carried on, and someone came to find a chance to love in each direction, forging change with each connection. Someone will be gone, but someone leaves behind a treasure map to satisfaction, only found in noble action. We can do that too, noticing a need, seeing them as we, and helping where we can. Even something small can turn a wrong thing right. Just step into the dark and shine a beam of light. No matter if it's faint or blazing, blinding bright, just step into the dark and shine your beam of light. Thank you, David.
Thank you, Will, so much. I love you.
Love you, David.
That was beautiful. I hope I'm back. I don't know if I'm back, but thank you.
Back.
Will. That was really nice. I don't know how much you heard of what I said about Will, but Will's a fantastic talent, and you can see him in streaming at streamingmusicals.com. His Birdland concert, New Songs, is there, as well as Emma, in which he performs. And that song was written by John Boccaccino in honor of David. And that was the second time it's ever been performed. Bravo, that was beautiful. Now, please welcome the Congressman from New York's 18th Congressional District, Representative Sean Patrick Mahoney.
Hey, everybody. Hey, it's so wonderful to be with you tonight. I'm joining you from Washington. I see my friend Mark Takano is on. Let me acknowledge him, the chair of the LGBT Equality Caucus, who is such an important leader in our ongoing fight for human rights and equal rights and a just and progressive society. I know my friend Ritichie Torres is on tonight. We are so excited to be welcoming him to the Congress soon, along with Mondaire Jones, not one, but two diverse new out members of Congress from New York. That'll triple the number of out gay congressmen from New York. And you should know that right now in the new Congress, the way it's looking is that from the Bronx to north of Albany, New York will be represented by people of color or gay men or both. And I think that's a real tribute to the progress we've made as a community on so many levels. I also want to acknowledge so many friends I saw tonight. You're too numerous to name who've been helpful to me. I certainly want to acknowledge Chris Quinn, who's been such a critical leader in our community for so long. I know Brad Hoylman was on, looking for big things from Brad in the future, but he's already made a huge contribution in the state Senate in New York. And of course to Dave Cause and my friend Judith Light, Michael Urie. You know, you all have made this a collectively tough act to follow, but you know, with David, it just is easy to speak from the heart. And what I want to tell you is that, you know, there's a scope and a duration and a depth to what David has done with his life and with his work that is truly unique. When you think about the duration of his work as a truly young person leading and historically extraordinary event in opposition to the Vietnam War. Think about the scope of his work. So not just fighting for peace, but also, of course, in the LGBT equal rights movement in the dark and difficult years during the AIDS epidemic, during the many years in the wilderness, during Republican administrations when we weren't welcome, but even holding our friends' feet to the fire when he challenged even those who were our allies to do more. The duration of his career and the scope of it are extraordinary. And then, of course, you can't help but be struck by the depth of what he does. Because David isn't just about LGBT equality. It's not just about, are we going to get equal rights? It's about changing this culture. He's not just about whether we have certain rights to get married or to not get fired or to be, treated equally when it comes to accommodations or other public services. It's about whether we feel equally. It's about whether we know that we are truly equal to other human beings in the eyes of God, in the eyes of our families, and in our own hearts. I've always been impressed by how David reaches for something more in his work. He doesn't just want to lock down narrow temporal things. He wants to change how you and I see each other, how the world sees us. And I think on that front, as much as anything, David has been truly ambitious, truly historic, and extraordinarily successful. Because of all the people in American politics now who have a certain cynicism about what's going on here in this city, about what's going on in this administration, and who are rightly concerned across all the areas where we have real challenges. When we look at what's happening with our climate, what's happening in David's own California right now, when we look at what's happening with the Me Too movement and the rights of women, we look at what's happening with our immigrant communities and the fight of the Dreamers and others to be treated with decency and respect. When we look at the extraordinary movement this summer, saying Black Lives Matter for equal justice, when so many people of color and people who are not people of color who have joined together as good allies to say we can do better for social justice. I understand that there is frustration and anger and restlessness out there. But David has taught us that if we keep working, this system will work for us. And as an LGBT community, we have seen this system work for us because of people like David Mixner. Now, it didn't just work. It worked because we worked. It worked because he worked. It worked because we ran for office. It worked because we sat at the card tables. It works because they started organizations like the Victory Fund. Thank God for the Victory Fund. And all of you who have been sticking at it and believing in it and giving to it for decades. Because we worked, this system has opened itself to us. So in just my own career, I've gone from being legally prohibited to get my family health insurance when I was elected to Congress to being legally married with full rights and benefits. And of course, across so many other areas, we have seen the country come around to us at the cultural level. So now that broad majorities of Americans actually see us as deserving of equal rights. And those lessons David once taught me can be applied to other areas of social progress, where we seek to change the culture around gun safety and gun violence, where we seek to change the culture around what it means to be a sustainable carbon-free economy, where we seek to change the culture around toxic masculinity, or around systemic racism, or so many other challenges that seem insurmountable until all of us as human beings just see it a little differently. And that is what has happened in the movement for LGBT equality. And I think David's contribution to that has been, in some ways, with all of the acknowledgements of his contributions, I think sometimes what is missed is that David has taught us to touch people in their hearts and to forgive them when they hurt us. And it is that beautiful generosity of spirit that moved me as a young White House staffer to rush down from my office to the White House mess where David was, bringing my copy of Stranger Among Friends that I had read before I got that job in the White House, to ask him to sign it for me. And David did sign it for me. And as so many of you have testified tonight, that was the beginning of a long friendship. That was 23 years ago. And David wrote in the inside jacket of that book to Sean, who will live to see the day when we are all truly free. And David, we're not there yet. We still need you. We still need the Victory Fund. We still need everybody on this call and so many allies in the straight community. But boy, have we made progress. And when they write the history of our movement, they will remember you. And you will be recognized as you are tonight, but on the pages of history, as a true giant who saw the future, who made real sacrifices to achieve it, who stayed with it when it got tough, who believed in others, who brought out the best in so many others, and who made it possible someday for some of us to see a world where we are all truly free. God bless you, David. God bless the Victory Fund. Thank you all for letting me join you tonight.
I love you to pieces, Sean.
Right back at you, buddy.
I'm Maxine Waters, a member of Congress, and I'm here to share this very special moment where my friend David Mixner is being awarded the Lifetime Achievement Award, and he certainly deserves it. His life has been about justice, freedom, and equality for everyone. He got involved in the civil rights movement at a very early age. In Los Angeles, he was well known as a leader. As a matter of fact, he founded the first gay and lesbian political action committee in the country. And so he has worked very hard, not only on the issues for gay and lesbian community, LGBTQ. He has been involved, again, in civil rights. He has been involved in so many protests. When all of the protests took place recently, I know that his heart was just pumping, because this is what he used to do, organize and lead these kinds of protests. And so he's been involved in ending the war in Vietnam. He's been involved in working against for nuclear disarmament. He's been involved with me in helping to end apartheid in South Africa. As a matter of fact, he has told this story many times, where we took over the South African consulate in Los Angeles, and it was on Thanksgiving. And we spent the night together. And sometimes he tells that story in ways that make people think that we were maybe a little bit more intimate. But it was really all about protesting against apartheid in South Africa. And because of his work and the work that we did, we were able to get Nelson Mandela released from prison. We were able to put an end to apartheid in South Africa. Congratulations, my friend, David Mixner. It's been too long since we've been together, but I look forward to seeing you soon. You deserve this award. Thank you so very much.
I first met David Mixner 10 years ago this month, in September of 2010. I had recently come out, and David cold called me to get together. The man I met in September of 2010 was anything but cold. He walked into my office, he gave me a big hug, and he said, "Welcome to the family." Now, I had done nothing to earn David's warmth, that hug. I hadn't even earned a handshake, if we're being honest. When David Mixner met me in 2010, he saw someone who wanted to change and was genuinely committed to help. For the last decade, David Mixner has been my rabbi. The privilege to work with the men and women on this Zoom for marriage equality, to repeal Don't Ask, Don't Tell, to ensure non-discrimination in the workplace and across society, has, for me at least, always begun with advice from David Mixner. What might I contribute? An amicus brief, an op-ed, maybe travel to a state where marriage is before the voters, participate in a fundraiser, start a project. Each task begins with a call or a visit with Rabbi Mixner. I know I'm not alone. This Zoom call is full of people inspired, informed, and mentored by David Mixner. We are Mixner's minions, all ages, all continents, all professions. You've heard from members of Congress, governors, senators, business leaders, an incredibly formidable group. But you know what's more impressive and more formidable than Mixner's network? It's his lifetime of work you all have heard about and we all are so familiar with. Organizer of the moratorium against the Vietnam War, as Judith talked about, persuader of then Governor Ronald Reagan to oppose the Briggs Amendment. That was the key to its defeat. A leader in organizing against AIDS, architect of the first public effort by the LGBTQ community in a national presidential campaign, father of the Victory Fund, best-selling author, world traveler, a star on the stage. Any one of these commitments would make someone an historic figure and worthy of this award. But what about someone who accomplished all of these things, who changed the world again and again and again? In addition to honoring that person, we should study them. What could the rest of us learn? How could we be like that person? Sure, he's smart, charismatic, great sense of humor, strategic. He's fun and charming. He's curious and he loves to learn. But think about it. The world is full of talent. That's not Mixner's secret sauce. What are his superpowers? Well, for one, David Mixner is different because of his optimism and his fighting spirit. I didn't know David when our community lost so many to AIDS, including tragically the love of David's life. But I've known David more recently when he's faced his own serious health challenges. He never loses optimism. He always keeps fighting. Mixner's spirit is an unstoppable force. David also lives according to the change he wants to see in others. As a lifelong advocate, David's purpose is to persuade others so he listens to them. Progress nearly always requires the undecided or opponents to afford advocates the benefit of the doubt. So David offers it first himself. He always says that the goal of a movement is to move people. So he rejects the self-defeating mindset that judges based on where people were. Mixner focuses on where they might be in the future. And he understands that a partial ally is still an ally. There is no them in the Mixner method. The power of a generous spirit. You've heard it before. And this is David Mixner's secret sauce. It's his superpower. It's what makes him so special and has enabled him to change the world again and again and again. This is what I first noticed when I got that hug from David 10 years ago when he welcomed me to the family. And a decade later, I understand it even better. We live in a moment of unprecedented division, paralyzing challenges, and horrific inequities. We need real structural change, and we need to come together to make that change. How? We can do it if we are like David Mixner. It is my honor to introduce the man we've all been talking about, a smart, kind, talented, and generous man who has made the world a more hopeful place and will again and again and again. Big Daddy, the great David Mixner.
And how'd you get this award up to me so quick? I love you, Ken. I love you and thank you so much. At last, you soon won't have to listen to any more about me. And I know that's going to be of great relief to you all. I have to take a moment and remember a pioneer of our community who we lost this week, Henry Van Emerton, who was one of the most generous, kind people who not only championed our community, championed the arts community, was an extraordinary man who asked for nothing except that we do good. And by his generosity and kindness, the community flourished. And we will miss Henry deeply. And we cannot forget these people. We cannot forget them. I want to thank Mayor Parker, who inspired me by her victory. Who would have ever thought I'd live long enough to see a lesbian elected mayor of Houston, Texas? She's one of my heroines. She has done an astounding job in the Victory Fund. The staff, Seth, Jared, and others have done the easiest job on this event I could think of. I have to really thank William Waybourn, Lynn Greer, and Joy Thompson. They were my partners in crime in this. And, you know, this isn't about me in some ways. We lost a lot of people to AIDS. I lost 300 of my friends and some very, that's my cat, very important people. One moment, please. Some very important people to AIDS. Most of them were more talented than I. Most of them had so many gifts to give. Most of them showed a nobility and dignity in facing death by staffing the barricades of justice in their last dying days. If they had survived, I probably would be a footnote. It's sort of by default that I'm here tonight, but we must never forget them. We won't know their names. We won't be able to call out their names or present them awards, but not one of this is in this room tonight without their gift that they gave in their last dying days. You know, I was thinking tonight, we're sort of like World War II vets, my peers. We're a diminishing commodity as our soldiers from World War II, who were known as the greatest generation. There's very few of them left. I'm sort of like a whooping crane of my generation. I'm one of the few survivors and sort of unique to look at and see how long he's going to last. But what I represent, and only represent, and humbly represent, is a generation, my generation, that was the greatest generation. We were the mighty bridge. We created the bridge between our early pioneers, like Phyllis Lyon and Del Martin and Harry Hay. We created the bridge to you today. And we didn't do a bad job of it, and we leave it to you now to pick up and carry on. You know, I've gone from a place where it was against the law for me to run for office, to have children, to adopt, to be protected in our jobs, to serve our country, and to legally express our love. And in 6 decades, I have seen all of that come true. I have gone where it was thousands of my brothers and sisters were institutionalized and had forced lobotomies done by their families. One institution in California performed 4,000 lobotomies in 1 year on LGBTQ people. I had the honor of meeting some of those whose life was taken from them mentally, and I was inspired by them and their courage. But you know, I look at that and I look at AIDS, and then I look at the pandemic today, and our television is filled with LGBTQ first responders, doctors, nurses, grocery clerks, garbage collectors, all who are proudly out and open, taking the gift we've learned from the sacrifice of the others and offering them to our society. How blessed we are to have seen it. I have witnessed fire bombings, hate crimes, police raids, politicians advocating death sentences for us. But I have also lived long enough to see an openly gay man, Mayor Pete, win Iowa. Now, I never thought I'd live to see that day, and I will never forget that night. And thank you, Mayor Pete, for that. But personally, it's been a rough road at times. I hated myself for being gay. I have journeyed through that self-hatred, the line about who I was for the first 3 decades of my life, feeling that I was not allowed to dream about a future for myself. You know, a nervous breakdown, 8 stays in critical care in the last 10 years. But I am so damn proud that you have allowed me to work by your side, to be part of this tribe of noble, brave, and distinguished people. And I want to thank you for allowing me to be by your side as we change this planet. Now, I want to leave you with 3 lessons that I have learned. You can listen to them or discard them, but it makes me feel profound at this moment, so you'll indulge me. The purpose of a movement is not to celebrate how bright we are, or how correct we are, or how righteous we are. The purpose of the movement is to change the mind of others and create a home that's comfortable for them to join us at whatever level they're ready to join us, and to make them feel welcome. We have to create a safe place for those who take longer to come out or to announce their support of our journey. We should not make anyone pass a series of litmus tests in order to work by our side. It is to be a broad movement of diversity, of ideas. Being gay doesn't have a political party. Being gay doesn't have a religion. Being gay doesn't have an ethnicity. We are a tribe of people that have earned the right through a trail of tears to sit at any table, anytime, any place. The other thing I want to warn you against is self-righteousness. Now, I am guilty of this at times as others, but self-righteousness is truly the enemy of civilized dialogue. It makes it difficult for people to sit and talk, and most importantly, listen to others. Because if you listen to others, though you might disagree with 90% of what they're saying, you will find that 10% that can build a bridge between each other. And that will be the beginning of a fruitful and productive relationship. Ignore the other 90%, find that 10%, welcome them, and put self-righteousness aside. Now I'm going to close. I know that's good news for y'all. It's dark times right now. It is the most challenging time in my 60 years. We can go down the list of horrors that we have witnessed. And we have to acknowledge all those who have died and suffered from COVID. 200,000 of our brothers and sisters and mothers and fathers and aunts and uncles. It's incomprehensible, the lack of empathy about them. But we must constantly remind people that they have not died alone, that we are here for them to the end. I want to say that if I had to say one thing to you, I think, I grew up when there was a thing known as the American spirit. No matter how much you agreed, you helped others. Whether it was Katrina or war or 9/11, there was this extraordinary American spirit. It goes back to almost like the Amish, where if a neighbor's barn burns down, we all show up to rebuild it. It's called being a neighbor. It's called being a friend. It's called caring for others. We're in danger of losing that. We're in danger of having that man, whose name I won't mention, take that away from us. He has so numbed us to outrage after outrage, we just feel that we are powerless and helpless. And we just sort of sit in shock, in awe of his constant barrage of evil. We are not and never will be powerless. We must never surrender that American spirit to a man who knows no limits. We must treasure it and cherish it even more, whether it's the wildfires in California or Hurricane Sally or COVID. We cannot surrender that, because if we surrender that, he has won. We must still look after each other. We must still love each other. We must still care for each other. We must still help each other rebuild those houses in California. If we give that up to him and his barrage of hate, barrage of division, barrage of bullying and dividing us, then he truly has won. And if you think you've done enough, you haven't. I haven't. And even though I'm not well these days, I'm still doing everything I can. I push myself till I'm exhausted and I have to walk myself over to the bed, and I still feel inadequate. In this next month, there's no such thing as enough. We are not going to get a second time at bat on this one. It's only 49 days, and it's the most important 49 days in your life. The American dream, the American spirit, the American democracy is at stake. I love being an American. We're not perfect. We've made many mistakes in our history, but never did I feel that that spirit and pride of being an American was in danger, to have it taken away from me. And I'm not going to let him do it. And neither are you. And so whatever you can do, it is not enough. You must think, what can I do today? But we also, finally, I'm going to get stopped, also cannot let our personal lives be tainted by hate and division and thoughts of revenge and anger and violence. Because then we become them, but just them with a different ideology. That's not a victory. If we allow him to remove our spirit of love and family and caring, that's a defeat. So be a good neighbor. You know, my mama gave me the best advice I've ever gotten in my life. She said, honey, I'm very proud of what y'all do. But she said, y'all have to, and I know you're busy, but she said, sit down. Don't stop having fun. Find the moments of joy in your life. Laugh with friends. Drink with them. I actually drank too much with them. Have a good time, because if you don't have that in your own life, if you don't celebrate with your friends and laugh and get together, how are we going to describe it to the world? How are we going to describe that joy and that love and that peace that we can find inside ourselves to the world? So have fun. But I'll just close with one thing. Don't you dare let that man get reelected. I will come and personally get each one of you, and you know I will. I love you. I am so humbled. I'm so moved to tears by the words and music tonight. Thank you all very much.
Thank you so much, David. Thank you for those words. I needed that tonight. Congratulations on Victory Fund's Lifetime Achievement Award. You could not be more deserving. Thank you to all the artists and elected officials for joining us tonight and helping honor David. Thank you to all of you who supported this event with financial contributions. Your donations will go directly toward Victory Fund's efforts to continue what David started, building LGBTQ political power by supporting LGBTQ political candidates. This event would not have been possible without you. As nice as this evening has been, it feels strange to spend all this time with David.
Thank you, David.
Thank you all.
Seeing him gotten a hug. I know I speak for everyone when I say I can't wait to see you again in Times Square. Please, please go to the Victory Fund and give if you can. Victoryfund.org. It's in the chat. A link. If you can give anything, please do. Thank you all. Congratulations, David. Thank you for a lifetime of leadership and support and activism. We are better for you. Thank you all.
I love you all. Good night.
Thank you, David.
Thank you, David.
Thank you, David.
Thank you, David. We love you, Big Daddy.
Thank you, David. Love you, Big Daddy.
David.
Thank
you, David. Big Daddy. Thank you.
Grazie, David.
Thank you, David.
Grazie. Thank you, David.
Thank you, David.
Thank you, David.
Thank you, David. Thank you, David. Thank you, David.
David.
There's John. Hi, John.
David.
Thank you, David.
everybody.
Thank you, David.
Thank you.
Love you, David.
Thank you.
We don't want to leave.
And the puppy.